Hey, what's up, beautiful people from YouTube? This is Melbourne Yatri here. This is the episode 2 of our new house construction series of videos. And in this episode, we would like to discuss our journey from land purchase to, just before the construction of the house actually began. And, we are going to go ahead and show you the entire roadmap of how it actually looks like for us here in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, right from land purchase to settlement. This is as usual, my perspective of it, my opinion about it. This is not specifically for someone else. It might actually vary from your current situation, so you got to go ahead and find out in the market what is best for you. Okay, this is purely sharing our own experience up here. This is a roadmap that I charted out based on multiple conversations with our builder and other people involved with respect to our house building this thing. So it starts off with land purchase and goes all the way up to settlement. Okay, and we did not do a land and house package, which is very common in this part of the world. What we have actually done is we bought the land from the local real estate agent, and then we've gone ahead and we actually figured out which builder to go with. So I will be talking about our thought process with respect to purchasing the land in a short while in this video. But just to give you an overall overview, it's basically a land purchase, then we chose a builder, then we went through the house design process with the builder, then we had to do land cleaning, and that's when our file got transferred to construction phase, which is basically just at this base, what they call it as base in terms of construction phase, is where our file got transferred to the construction department of that particular builder. Well, moving on, this is our journey with respect to land purchase. Now, when we are doing land purchase, right, it's very highly subjective to which country you're in. And if you're basically from Australia, it's highly subjective to which state you're in. And state to state, I guess, I've been told it differs. So you got to go up and talk to, your registered, what you call a real estate agent, or a licensed mortgage broker, or, a financial consultant if you need to go ahead and do it. But most importantly, when you're trying to look for land, apart from the real estate agent, in our own experience, what I've actually found out is to go ahead and get a very good conveyancer. Hire a conveyancer, they're worth their money in gold. Now, some people go ahead and hire solicitors. If you can get a solicitor who can go ahead and carry your transaction, well and good, please go ahead and do that. We were able to get a conveyancer. Our conveyancer was absolutely gold. In fact, she's actually platinum standard. She saved a lot of headaches for me, and she literally saved me a couple of times when couple of mortgage brokers were trying to give me a bit of headache. But that may be my experience. I'm sure you're going to get a very decent amazing mortgage broker who's going to help you out in the way you got to do. Okay, so apart from that, you got to make some decision whether you want to use a mortgage broker or bank lending manager. Now, we did initially go through and approach a couple of mortgage brokers. Unfortunately, because in our particular case, it did not work out well for us. They did not respond back well to us, or our whole thing did not go well. Whereas the bank lending manager from Combank was very good with us, and he was able to get us our loan across. And this is purely subjective. It's depending on people to people. I've heard awesome stories about mortgage brokers saving thousands of dollars over multiple years for people who have actually bought it, and that has been from my own friends. Similarly, bank lending managers have been awesome for people whom everyone said that you're not going to get a loan, but still have got it. So I was one of those cases where many mortgage brokers went through my whole thing and said, hey, you know what, mate, you're not going to get a bank loan at all. But when I went to the bank lending manager, okay, I've basically gone ahead and they said, no, in your case you will be getting a loan, and they've actually approved me to do it. The other things is, you also have a real estate buyer's agent and seller's agent. A buyer's agent is basically like, if I am going out in the market and I'm looking to buy a piece of real estate, whether that is land, house and land package, or just construction, then you have someone called as a buyer's agent who'll go and look out and do for it. In my case, I have not hired a real estate buyer's agent. I went ahead and did everything from my end. In your case, it's actually your choice. Sometimes people actually suggest, there are multiple YouTube videos and blogs that suggest that having a real estate buyer's agent makes more sense. And some say no, you can actually figure out yourself. And I am part of the bandwagon where I've actually figured out for myself. and gone ahead and did it. And I got a little bit lucky, to be honest, because the real estate seller's agent, that is the agent who's actually selling the real estate on the market, was a very genuine, honest person. So there was no dodgy things actually with him, and he was right up front in my face, saying what is possible and what is not possible, and what I'm going to get and what I'm not going to get. And that made my life very, very easy, and that's the reason I could just handle the whole transaction. And anyway, I'm comfortable in doing it. Some people are not comfortable doing it. I don't take any stress in handling these kind of transactions. I'm good with that. It's your choice if you want to hire a buyer's agent or not. And but you'll have to decide whether you need a buyer's agent or not. And then obviously there will be a seller's agent because you are buying real estate from someone. So when we were looking for land, this is some of our learnings that we actually had from our entire process of actually trying to purchase a piece of land. And what we quickly figured out after going a couple of what you call open houses on this thing, of trying to see how the land is being sold, is that there is a document called as section 32. So don't forget to read the section 32 completely in detail. Now if you're someone like me who wants to know the nitty-gritties of things and the nuts and bolts of it and try to understand details, it's a very good read. It's a very interesting read. Almost all the real estate agents by default actually give you section 32 when you're really serious to go ahead and buy that piece of land. You can always request for section 32. Just don't do it because you're doing window shopping. It just doesn't make sense at all. If you're doing that, you're actually wasting someone else's time. So if you're serious to go ahead and buy a piece of land, then go ahead and ask for section 32 of it. The real estate agent will be more than happy to give you a copy of it, and an e-copy obviously, and then you can read through it completely. Now what you could do is, if you're even more serious about that land and you want to understand completely, hey, am I doing a good purchase or not here, you could always send the section 32 to your conveyancer or solicitor whom you're actually hiring to get this thing done. So they are actually highly experienced in going through it. They will immediately come back and tell you what are the pluses of that particular site, what are the minuses of that site, and then you can make an informed decision whether you want to buy that piece of land or not. Because net it's your decision. It's not anyone else's decision. Okay, you are the one who's going to be a decision maker, and you could be you as a single person, or could be a family unit. Together as a family, you guys actually go ahead and make a decision, or anyone who's actually going to be part of the loan, documents to be part of it. If you're buying with full cash, good luck to you, man. Wish you all the best. So that's where it is. So take a section 32. If you can't understand it, you can always send it to a conveyancer and solicitor, and they can actually read through it, tell you the positives and negatives of it, and then you can use that information to go ahead and make a decision whether you want to buy that piece of land or not. So obviously many people see the suburb they want to buy in, what kind of suburb it is, what kind of amenities which are actually available there. It is properly developed or not developed, or will it be developed in the next 4 or 5 years, so on and so forth. All these things are there for you to go ahead and weigh across. And the other thing is, piece of information tidbit I want to share here, is that the conveyancer or solicitors, in my case the conveyancer basically said that she was okay to review as many section 32s as needed, as long as I'm committed to actually use her for the full transaction, use her services in getting that whole job done, okay, of basically going in and buying the piece of land. So now some conveyancers basically say they'll only give like 4 or 5. When I was shopping for conveyancers, and please to shop across, so you will come to know a few conveyancers and how different conveyancers give you different kind of packages for the dollar values. So the conveyancer basically the other conveyancer, when I was actually shopping around, said she was only going to take a look at up to 4 section 32s, and beyond that I'm supposed to pay for her, but 4 are free. But the conveyancer that I went ahead with is the one who said she's going to take a look at as many section 32s as possible, and she's not going to charge anything for that as long as I go ahead and use her conveyancing services. Now I was very happy with that, and let me tell you all very upfront, I have paid a conveyancing charge of $1,200. That's 1,200 Australian dollars, okay, as my conveyancing fee. And man, that's worth every cent I've actually paid. She helped me a lot. And so yeah, I mean, what kind of information you would get in section 32? So you would actually get an understanding of the following, whether you have easements or not. Now, if you don't know what an easement is, you have to go ahead and Google search it. There are some official definitions given by the Victorian government and as well as the Commonwealth government, and then the local area councils actually of what easements are. In my understanding, as a simpleton, my simple understanding is easement is a piece of land wherein underneath you are actually having government services running, which are actually common for that area, especially like stormwater drains, like sewage drains, and then you actually have water that is going across. In some areas you might actually even have gas lines going across above there. So in the piece of land that I bought, which I will show in the next episode, is where we had easements across two sides of the plot, and then we had one side which was purely stormwater drain, and the other side was actually drainage, that is sewage pipes, as well as we had another stormwater pipe, actually a smaller size of it. So that's where it is. Those are actually easements up out there. There are a lot of local council rules and regulations that you need to follow on building or using the easement area inside your block, although physically you actually own the piece of block above there on which the easement is, but there are some rules and regulations you need to follow. As long as you're comfortable with that, yeah, I mean, you can go ahead and buy that land. So I think it's you need to actually understand it a bit more about easements. So you got to go ahead and look at your council websites, especially the suburbs in which your council belong to understand what you can build, what you can't build, and what you can do with the easement land. It's not uniform across. It's different for each council, and and you can always find some things are in common, but quite few rules are actually different in what you are allowed to do on an easement or not. Now the other thing is actually neighborhood residential zone, NRZ. Now this is another thing you got to check whether it is there, and that actually comes with own its sets of covenants, or basically set of rules or guidelines that come with it. So like in some areas the houses have to be in a certain fashion. In some areas you cannot build certain type of houses. In some areas you can't build certain type of dwellings. So for example, in our case, the area where we bought in, we could only build a single dwelling house. We can't build a dual dwelling house. So that's basically our typical a regulation above there. Then you also have SLO, which is basically called a significant landscape overlay. Now this is something that you also have to go back and check what that means with the council. The best person to help you in all of these, apart from your conveyancer, is Google. Just Google search with respect to which council the suburb you're looking for belongs to, and in that council you can actually Google search and see what does that particular SLO actually mean for you. Okay, now then you got to also figure out building permits. Now this building permits, whether it's needed or not. Now this is something that you can actually figure out at this stage, or you can, when you choose the builder will anyway figure out and tell you whether you need building permits or not. In sometimes you need other type of permit actually above there. There are two types of permits up out there, and then that's basically figured out with the builder, as long as you're going with any of the reputed builder, whether it's a boutique builder or a local builder, or you're going ahead with this large bulk builders like what we did. As long as the builder is registered with HIA, you're good with them, and then they'll normally follow all the rules, and they'll tell you what permits are needed. In fact, they'll apply the permits for you. Most of the builders do actually. Then you need to see if there is any owners corporation actually above there as part of it for that piece of land. If it is, then that actually has some kind of guidelines or rules or regulations we need to follow. Then what you need to watch out for is growth area infrastructure contribution. Now this is something that actually comes in the newer suburbs where everything is new and the infrastructure is still being built there. I think there is some kind of contribution that people who are buying land there do to the government services, if I'm not wrong. You guys have to look up on Google, please don't quote me on it. I might be a bit off, but that's what I actually understood reading a couple of blogs, that the growth area infrastructure contribution is something that we actually pay when you buy a piece of land in that part of area. But obviously you need to understand, if you're paying this, then that area is so new, so hence your land price obviously is going to be cheap. It's not going to be as expensive as an established area's land price is going to be. Okay, then the other thing is you can do a title, a register search statement. Now this is something that your conveyancer would normally do when you give them the section 32. Okay, and it costs like $10 or $15 or something. You got to see state to state it varies, and maybe it also varies council to council. So it costed me roughly less than $50 for sure. I did it on myself, and then later on I figured out when I went to the conveyancer with the section 32, even they would actually run a test just to check all the numbers, or the lot numbers and the plot numbers quoted and given to us, along with the dimensions and the location of the plot by the real estate agent as part of section 32. They match the register search statement. Okay, so this is actually run with the government agency, and they actually come back and tell us. Then the next thing you got to look out for is bushfire rating, because based on your bushfire rating, the house you're going to construct, you're going to have a cost loading on top of it. Like the area that I actually bought and had a bushfire rating of BAL 12.5. Okay, and that basically had a loading of around $4,000 on my overall build cost, for a simple reason, because everything had to be bushfire BAL 12.5 rated, the outdoor of the house, and hence that was an additional cost. For some people it might be even larger. It depends on builder to builder, and it also depends on your BAL ratings. You can simply Google search and see what is your BAL rating for the house, and normally this is mentioned as part of your section 32, or you would actually get it when you Google search for NRZ or SLR. Then you got to see if there are any additional restrictions or any corporate strata is actually part of the area where you're trying to buy the piece of land, because they add in additional rules and regulations. Once you're comfortable with all of this information, then you can actually go ahead and try to see if you're okay with the land or not. Now what normally people do is they only look for the area block. I mean, that means they look for the suburb, and they see how many square meters of area it is and what are its dimensions, and so on and so forth. Some people basically look at the second. So my this thing is at least my lessons learned in my journey of going through this is, it's preferable if you first understand section 32, digest it, and then start evaluating the size of your block, because your block could be pretty big. Like mine is not really that pretty big. It's a decent size. It's 762 square meters. That block, but it is actually having easements on two sides. So the actual available land for construction of a house is actually only around 500 square meters, because around 200 square meters I'm actually is gone for over the easements. Okay, so roughly around 500, or somewhere shy of 600 square meters is where the actual land available for construction is for me. Okay, similarly, in some other house you could actually get a smaller plot which is only 600 square meters, but then you could build the whole house actually on it, because there are no easements in the house. So that's the reason, if you ask me, my suggestion would be, you go ahead and actually just go through the first section 32. Once you're comfortable with section 32, that is only time you go ahead and try to evaluate a cost benefit analysis of the amount of square meters of land that you're trying to buy, vis-a-vis the cost price of it, because all of these actually has an impact for our overall cost of your home, because net you are the one who's paying for all of it. Okay, it might come out in like 5 different buckets or 10 different buckets, but net it is your pocket which is going to pay overall for it. So that's the reason, at least in what I did in my this thing is to first figure out section 32. Once I'm comfortable with what is there in section 32, then I went ahead and took the piece of looked at the square meters of the land, and then figured out the cost benefit ratio of dollars per square meters I'm spending on the land, and whether it made sense for me or not. Okay, so that's with respect to this. So let's go ahead for the next thing. So it's actually choosing a builder. Now we basically had we actually evaluated, I think, 4 builders. So initially was our local builder up there. We evaluated them. They were absolutely awesome people. They gave me multiple times of codes, the different changes, because initially I evaluated for going for a 2-level house. That means a ground level and a level up. But whereas later on, when I figured out because of some internal family reasons, it made more sense for me to go for a single level house. I changed to single level house, and they were all completely supportive in giving me multiple quotes and stuff. But then I couldn't figure out what exactly the final finish of the house is going to be. because they don't have any demo houses to show. I'm not sure if that's the case with the this particular a small builder, but they're pretty famous builder in the area that I've actually built my house. So almost every fifth house or every sixth house is actually built by them. But then my family's requirement was they want to see what they're actually buying or what they're going to live into, to be honest. So that's where they have actually pushed me to go ahead and look for the larger bulk builders who actually have demo houses to show. So that's where we went ahead. We have seen bulk builders, and then finally, out of all the bulk builders, we have actually narrowed down on Henley, and we're pretty happy, with the decision that we have made till now, where we are in the construction phase with Henley. So I will also make a separate video of actually going with Henley Homes, and what was that entire journey with Henley Homes, especially throughout the house design process. I did not want to add that in this particular journey. I mean, a particular video, because it'll become pretty long. I mean, it'll be a 3-hour video or something like that. So I'll just make it as a separate video of that. Okay. So that's where you got to go ahead and first choose a builder, and then once you choose a builder, you got to look for a house design. Now, in this house design process, what you got to understand is I'll go through a very detailed of how we arrived at our house design process in a separate video. But these are the key things that you got to remember when you're looking for multiple designs of a particular builder to actually choose them, or to actually go ahead and choose a house design. So some people choose a builder and choose the designs out of the builder's availability, plans that are available. Some people choose the design of the house and then figure out and narrow down the builder on it. So I'm actually part of the second category of people who actually who had a definite requirement of the design of the house. And then based on the design of the house, I was looking for builders who could actually go ahead and make that kind of houses, and then narrow down on Henley Homes. And I'm happy with that decision. But when you're going to look at the design of the house, what you need to look for is how many bedrooms you need. Now, this is where you need to actually figure out, is this a house that you're going to live only for a few years in and then go ahead and upgrade? Or is this a house that you are calling for forever home? Like me, I just want to have one house. That's my forever home. So from that perspective, not only the number of bedrooms that you need today, you got to think for the number of bedrooms that you need after 5 years or 10 years. And that's where you got to choose the number of bedrooms that you need. Similarly, when the number of toilets that you need, you got to figure out how many that you need today, and also the number that you actually anticipate after 5 years or 10 years to make your life a bit more comfortable. Let me tell you something, there is nothing to be shy here. Everyone actually goes through this process, and everyone needs to basically account for all this. Because today you might figure out, hey, if I actually just go for one toilet house or two toilet houses, it's something is fine. But then down the line, after 5 years, you're having a struggle. Adding an additional toilet to your home is not going to be cheap, let me tell you that. So you might as well basically have it as part of your home from starting. Okay. Similarly, you got to figure out the number of bathrooms that you got to have. Okay, and whether those bathrooms are only going to be shower, or they're going to have showers along with bathtubs included in them. Okay, so this is something that you got to actually evaluate. You got to discuss in your family and agree to a certain number. Okay, and then that actually goes when narrowing down your home designs actually, and that will aid either choosing your builder or that particular builder's exact home design that you want to choose. And then you got to also figure out the number of living spaces you want, like the number of living areas or dining areas that you want. And do you want a rumpus, do you want to go ahead and have a theater actually above there, all these extra spaces, or do you want to have a play area actually part of your overall thing. All these spaces you got to figure out, and that will help you to narrow down a house design. Now remember, even the bulk builders always have a flexibility of slightly changing the design based on your taste. So don't think twice, or don't hold yourself back when you want a little bit of design change in the existing housing plan given by them. There is no harm in going ahead and asking them, and I would actually suggest you go ahead and do that. Now, once you finish basically choosing a builder, choosing a house design, the particular design, you've done customizations and you've gone through the entire design process, then before going to the construction process, you need something called as land cleaning. Because most of the bulk builders, or most of the builders would say, you got to get rid of all the rubbish, so they don't want any kind of rubbish. So this was different kind of rubbish which was there on my piece of land, which people have actually left out there and gone. and then they don't want any kind of grass above there. When I say any kind of grass, that means they don't want this tall grass which you're looking here. This kind of stuff is fine, they'll still, because if there is any cut and fill involved in your site, then they're anyway going to remove all this land. Now if there is no cut and fill involved in your site, I'm not sure what they would do. You got to go back and check with your builder, because my site had cut and filled, so I knew as long as I can keep short grass like this, which is less than 50 mm or 5 centimeters of height, I guess, then it was okay for me. But this tall glass was not tall grass was not acceptable for the builder, so I had to go ahead and actually mow the whole plot up. Obviously no bricks, no concrete blobs or anything that they want actually above there. When they come in, they want a clean site so that they can start the job and keep going on forward. Now I did hear from few people and few YouTube reviewers and people who have posted their own experiences in this thing, that if you do have a lot of grass, or you basically have a lot of concrete blobs or something, some builders do charge for cleaning up the site, because you need to understand, when they actually come in there to clear the site and they actually load it up on a vehicle and go back, and wherever the tipping area is, wherever the dumping area is, in that particular spot they get charged for giving mixed loads of actually garbage or a landfill. So hence they're going to charge you back. So I have actually spent close to $1,100 to get my entire site cleaned up. In fact, slightly scraped up in the starting. The reason being is I had a lot of concrete blobs in this section of my plot of land. Okay, that is because when people were building the surrounding houses, the concreters, while going back home, they actually washed their vehicles up here. Now I can't catch fault of them. This land was vacant for quite a few years, so they did what they did was right in their at that particular time frame. And similarly, a lot of garbage actually occurred out there, because it was just a piece of empty land up out there for quite some time. So yeah, I did spend money, got this whole thing cleaned up. I'll post some what you call clean site images now after this, and then you can go ahead and have a look at it. And that's how clean I've actually handed over to the the Henley Homes for construction. But their their way of approach, because I had a land cut and fill, was pretty awesome. They came in, they did not care how much I've actually scraped. They went ahead and they did their own due diligence, and they scraped the whole land up, the first topsoil up, and then they started actually cutting and filling, actually, so that they're building it on a solid platform. So that's it for this particular video. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video. And if you have any comments, please to post down. If you're looking for any specific details, please to let me know. And yeah, we'll keep posting more and more videos about our journey of building the house, and our life here in Melbourne. We are Melbourne Yatri channel up here. Wish you all the best, and Happy New Year.